Howdy folks, welcome back to Bagel Dog DIY. I am your host Ben. In today's video we're going to be looking at the third part of the laundry room remodel series. We're going to be working on getting the wainscoting installed, painting, and getting this laundry room finished. Without further ado, let's get into it. To start with, I'm just marking out and measuring for where this plug is located at so I can make sure I cut the wainscoting sheet in the proper location. Next, I'm going to head out into the shop and I'm going to mark it out on the 1/4-inch plywood. This is just some 1/4-inch sanded plywood, nothing special. It's going to get painted. This is all paint grade. So yeah, you really don't have to do anything too fancy here. As you can see, I'm just laying out this box. Then I'm going to drill a small pilot hole with a Forstner bit, get out my jigsaw, and cut out this box. Luckily on this wall, this was the only thing sticking out of the wall, was just this one box. So not a lot of cuts to make on this board. I'm going to be able to get this in one sheet. I did just use these boards at the full 4-foot width. You saw in the previous video that I cut that groove or rabbet in the back of my baseboard. I do the same to the top board, and that goes on the upper edge. You'll see in a second. You want to be extra careful when you're doing this. Make sure you measure twice and cut once. If this hole is off, there isn't really a good way to fix it, except cut a new sheet of wood. Jigsaw, jigsaw, jigsaw. Do a little dance. Jigsaw is fun. And once we get this hole cut out, we are going to carry this sheet in, insert it into that rabbeted baseboard, and push it up against the wall. Now this is a place where you could use some construction adhesive. I don't, because I'm going to put the little battens on here, and that's going to be enough strength to hold this up against the wall. Plus, I don't know in the future if you have to tear this down or tear it out. Construction adhesive behind this is going to ruin your sheetrock. I don't know. I didn't feel like it warranted construction adhesive. A lot of people would say that you should. There's no bubbles in it. The sheet fits on there flat, so I didn't apply any. But I carry the sheet in. I get it set down right in that rabbet. You can see me tapping it in here with this little rubber mallet. I get the top tapped in. I check it for level. My plug lines up great. I will be posting a video. This is now the third plug and or switch where I've added some thickness to the wall, and I still have not uploaded a video showing you how to do that properly to code. You'll be able to see when I put the switch cover back on that the plug is actually sunk into the wall because I added this 1/4-inch thickness of wainscoting. So there is actually these little rings that you need to put in. They're called box extenders. Again, I'll make a short, just like 3-minute video showing you guys how to do that. It's the same thing I ended up needing to do around the light switch for the room where I trimmed it out, and the light switch in the garage where I trimmed it out. So I get that piece, it fits in there perfect. I get this upper board tacked on it. I don't really know what to call that. The top wainscoting board. Some people would call it a chair rail. Stop chairs from bumping into your walls, but it's a little high for a chair rail. So it's just the upper part of the wainscoting here. Get that nailed on. This is just a 16 gauge brad nailer. I'm going down and I'm just nailing it in the studs that are there. So easy peasy, no big deal. And once I get that nailed on, I'm going to cut all of my battens. The battens are going to be the vertical strips that sort of divide up this space to give the wainscoting its definition. The trick with this, really kind of funny trick, is that spacing doesn't matter. I'm going to keep the spacing even on this wall on the right. I'm going to do one on either end, and then I'll divide to keep the spacing for the middle. But on that left wall there, up next to the sink and under the windowsill, I'm not going to be able to keep the same spacing. I'm going to have a seam on the left-hand side from the sheet in a strange place, and I'm going to have the sink right there. It really doesn't matter. You don't notice it. Nobody will ever notice it, I promise you. You'll see when it's all said and done. I end up doing 2 battens close together. I do one dead center under the window. The thing you want to think about is just how it's going to look visually. If I had kept the same spacing on that wall under the window, my batten would not have been dead center, and it would have looked strange if it was off to the left or the right. So you just got to make visual decisions, set things in place, see how they're going to look best. If they look good to your eye, nobody's going to pull out a tape measure and measure it. That's the thing with any type of finish like this, or building a fence or anything, you know. If you put your level on it and your level says it's perfectly level, but you stand back and it looks like it's cockeyed to the left, your friends aren't going to pull out a level. They're going to look at it and say, it looks cockeyed to the left. So make visual decisions as well as decisions with a level is kind of what I always tell people. So I start just putting in the 2 end pieces, and then, like I said, it's real easy. You just divide out the space in between, and I lay out my 3 center battens, and just get them nailed to the wall. Double check for level. Tappy tap tap into place. I love these little rubber mallets. They're amazing. If you don't have one and you're a woodworker or you do any type of finished work, you should go get one. It eliminates the need for a wooden block or a sacrificial piece to hit. And then I think I used an 18 gauge nailer on this one. They're not going anywhere. They're all going to get caulked and painted in as well. So yeah, you're just dividing the space up evenly. And again, I said this in the last video, but if I were to do this over again, I would dry fit all these things like you see me doing here. And then I would fully paint them. I would prime them and paint them the final color. I spent a full 3 days painting the interior. Actually, more than that because we don't like the first color I painted. But that's a story for the end of this video. And here you can see me, I'm working right by the sink. I haven't decided at this point in the video how I want to do these last 2 battens. You can see there's a seam there next to my trim. What I end up doing is actually doing 2 full battens down to the floor. You'll see those at the end of the video. Now we're looking under the sink. You can see my dryer vent line that I ran outside there to make it proper into code. You can see the shelf support that comes down. I'm adding some 2x4 blocking here. You can see the trim around under the sink, but I'm adding some 2x4 blocking here to this piece just so I have something to nail into. This is getting a big piece of 1x6 cedar trim, and I want to have something to nail into. I also end up screwing this block into the floor just to make sure that sort of sidewall that I built there out of plywood, filler panel I guess is what it would be called, is really sturdy. It is screwed to the wall into a stud, and then I just put 1 screw at the front of it there. Then I'm on the ladder and I'm adding some 2x again to these shelves so I have something to nail the trim to, and also to make them sturdier. These shelves are very strong. This is 3/4 inch plywood. They are directly mounted to boards on 3 sides, so they're fully supported. This just makes sure that the center doesn't sag over time. So just adding that little piece of 2x, screwing it down through the top and the center of both of those shelves. Basically, it makes it so I can put several hundred pounds on them. And then I go to town just priming. I'm sure you guys have seen somebody paint before. First thing, especially with this 1/4 inch plywood, is just to get a bunch of primer on it. It's going to soak it up. This room was brown. Brown's a pretty hard color to cover. So this is just some Kills primer. I do 2 coats of primer on everything. Here you see me just rolling it in, and I go back with a brush and get all the corners. Now we're coming to painter's caulk. Once I get everything primed, I caulk everything with painter's caulk. I caulk all the seams, all the edges. Here's a trick I learned a long time ago working in maintenance at the University of Arizona. Go out and buy yourself some tile sponges. They're super cheap. You can usually get a 4-pack of tile sponges, these big yellow sponges, and then cut them into sections of 6 or 8. See all those little squares I have on the floor? Then what you can do is just take your painter's caulk, run all your beads that you need to run, get it all, do one area at a time. You can see I'm sitting on the floor here. I get the baseboard, I get down these edges, and then those little 6 pieces of sponge I have are slightly damp. They're not wet. There's maybe 2 or 3 drops of water in each one. They're slightly damp. And what you do is you use those to wipe the caulk lines. It pushes the caulk in. It makes a beautiful caulking line. It does take more time than using your finger, but the caulking just comes out a lot prettier. It makes it easier to paint. And you'll see me rotating the cube. You can use about like 3 sides of it and then set it on the floor and move on to your next one. Once all your little pieces get filled up with caulking, this is a water-based painter's caulk. Take them over to the sink, rinse them out, squeeze them out, and get right back to work. Again, this is an old trick I learned from an old plumber. It works great in bathroom situations around tubs, tiles, sinks, anything like that. They sell these little plastic tools, little caulking scrapers that fit into the corner and all this junk. I've never found anything that works better than a tile sponge. Yeah, so little tip, little trick. Get yourself a tile sponge, cut it up into a bunch of pieces. It'll help your caulking out immensely. Man, my hair is so much longer now. Kind of shortened this video. I decided to just let it go. I don't know what's happening. So yeah, just getting all that caulking in there, getting it wiped nice and clean and smooth. That's the good stuff. And then I'm going to skip the part where I paint this room. I think I showed a little bit. I don't know. The painting's a whole big saga with this room. We picked this yellow paint. We do two colors in here. We do yellow and green. Um, the yellow, I don't know. I don't know if it was mixed wrong. It doesn't match the chip we picked. But I didn't realize that I got the room like half painted and then stepped out of it and was like, man, it was like a big bird, like bright yellow. That's definitely not what we were going for. So I ended up primering back over that and painting it again. Like I said, once I finally picked the colors and we finally settled on everything, this room did take about 3 days to paint. There's just a lot of cutting in. I have to cut in all this baseboard on the floor. I have to cut in all the wainscoting, all the trim. So yeah, again, a small space like this, if I had to do it over again, I would have fully painted everything I could. I could have painted the walls before the wainscoting went up and just painted down past, overlapped at 6 inches or so and put the wainscoting up. Just different things, hindsight being 2020. I would have painted this all before it went in. But I'll save you all the hours and hours of video I shot, just me with a roller on my hands and knees crawling around behind the dryer. You don't need to see all that. Just know that it happened and the dryer is painted behind. No half measures here. All right, and now we're looking at the finished product. I found these really cool animal hooks. My fiance is a veterinarian, large animal veterinarian, so I thought those were kind of cool. I actually found them on Amazon. You can see there in the corner, see those two pieces that are right next to each other, and that piece centered under the window. Can you tell they're not the same? I mean, obviously you can tell the two pieces on the left are closer together, but it doesn't look bad, right? It looks like that's how it should terminate. So yeah, I ended up covering that whole seam next to the window. I notched out that one piece of batten and centered the piece under the window. And like I said, I think it would look weird if that piece wasn't centered, even though those gaps are a little bit smaller. Then you can see the cedar trim. This is some trim I just lucked out on. They had a bunch of it at Lowe's. It's actually supposed to be cedar deck board, I believe. It's kind of thin, in my opinion, for deck board. But I just lucked out on picking it up. I think I got 6 10-foot pieces of it for like $12. It was something they ordered for somebody. I mean, it should, if you've ever bought cedar before, it should be way more than that. But it's kind of cool. It's not perfect wood. There's some knots in it. There's some through holes. So it works really good for trim like this. I did put a sealer on it. I sanded it and put a sealer on it. But other than tiling behind the sink, this laundry room is done. You can kind of see the ceiling up there. I will be posting that video. I did a nickel gap ceiling in here. But yeah, other than tiling the sink, and I'm going to replace the light in here, I think we're going to do a hanging pendant light. We just haven't found one we like yet. This is good to go. You can see we flash back to the original photo of this room, and just what an improvement. We had no storage before, no shelving. Now we have a 24-inch deep shelf up top. That's the full 9.5 feet of the room. We have that 3/4 shelf over that. That's also 24 inches deep. Tons of storage. All our toilet paper, our paper towels, all of our laundry stuff, our stuff for our dogs go in there. All the hooks on the wall, all of our jackets, all of my fiance's coveralls and veterinary working stuff, wash sink. The reason I haven't tiled around the wash sink yet is I'm actually going to put a different sink in there. That was a sink, a utility sink that I just had. We're going to get a stainless steel, also utility sink, a nice deep sink in there. But I needed that sink. Again, my fiance is a veterinarian. and she has random equipment and things she needs to clean when she's on call. So that was actually the first thing I did in this room. The first thing I did when we moved into this house. She needed a sink. She needed a utility sink. That sink, I do have hot and cold water in the garage. That's the project I'm working on right now, is sheetrocking and finishing the garage. So that sink's actually just going to move into the garage. I'm going to do a stainless sink there. We're going to tile around the 3 sides of that surround and do some type of countertop. So I'll post those videos when we decide what we're actually going to put in that space. But for now, I hope you can tell this laundry room went from completely, really just non-functional, no storage. I couldn't even walk in it. The room is so narrow, the way they had that shelf on the right-hand side, it was always hitting me. To a pretty nice space. We got this nice wainscoting up. We got this nice, I like the yellow and green kind of soft colors. It's Indiana. It's really gray here, so we try to do bright colors on the inside of our house just to get us through the winter. Yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can post any questions you have down in the comments. I'll try to answer them. But I hope you have a great rest of your week. Go out and build something. Cheers.